Hello group, just wanted to give you a demonstration on using Google Sheets. So if you want to pause this video and bring up Google Sheets, we're just going to start with a blank document. So I'm going to go over here and in Google Sheets, I'm going to click on blank. And at the very top, I'm just going to say something along the lines of like Google Sheets demo. I'm just going to say V1 so I can remember which version it is. Now that I have Google Sheets open, I'm going to add a heading to the top. I'm going to call it basically the same thing, Google Sheets demo. And after I enter in that name, I'm going to change the font size, making it a little bit bigger. I'm going to change it to 12. And I'm going to make it bold. And then I'm going to go and click a couple cells below. I'm going to create a few different headings, and let's see. Let's choose a movie theme. So first heading, I'm going to call that movie title. And I'm going to add something. We'll call this rating. And we need something that has some other data. So I'm going to say length. And then I'll put parentheses min for minutes. And I'm going to go in here and let's see. I'll create an interesting little title of Can We Watch in Class? I'll make that a question mark right there. And you notice it doesn't quite fit in the space that we have provided. So in this case, I'm going to go up here and the cursor changes to what looks like a little bit of an arrow. And I'm going to double click. And you notice it resizes that cell to fit in all of the text. Okay. And let's add another one here. We're going to say genre. And we'll leave that there for now. And in this section, I'm going to resize some of these based on how big I think the text in these columns is going to be. Rating, I think, is going to be smaller. So I'm going to go up here and I'm going to do the same thing we did before, which is double click. And it makes it it basically makes it as big as what the text is. So rating shrinks down to just fit. And length, I'm going to do the same thing there. And genre, I'm just going to leave that as is. And I'm going to enter a few pieces of data, but I'm going to first come and do a little bit of formatting. So I highlight the entire area, and then I'm going to go up to this tab. It says borders. And when I click on that, it gives me a number of different options. I'm going to select the first one that says all borders, but you can choose whatever you want. And now you can see it's darkened all the borders around the cells. I'm also going to go to these sections right here, and I'm going to do some additional formatting. So I want these headlines or these headings to be centered. So I'm going to come up here. So you'll see there's an icon. Look, some of this I'm going to hit center, and then I'm going to make some other changes. There's what looks like a paint can, and when you highlight it, it says fill color. I'm going to change that to black. You'll notice it basically looks like it gets rid of the text. It's still there, but the text color is black, so you can't see it. And then I'm going to go over to, it looks like an A with an underscore, and it says text color. And I'm going to change that to white. So this is a little bit of my own personal preference, and I'm going to make it bold. And now that I see it in there, I'm going to make each one of these just a little bit bigger so I can highlight every single cell. Come over here to where I have that little arrow again, and I'm going to stretch it. And you'll notice that made everything the same length. I'm going to play with these a little bit more to make them not quite take up the full screen, but a little bit more room. And then we'll just take a few different movie titles here. So we'll say the B movie. And Smurfs 2, Mulan, then we'll do Silence of the lambs. See if I can get that spelling right. So you have silence of the lambs, and we're going to come over here and we're going to give a rating to each of these. Hopefully this is right. So B movie feels like a G. So does Smurf. Mulan feels like a PG. Silence of the Lambs is an R. Oh, you'll notice it automatically tried to fill that in for me. When I typed in R, it automatically assumed I meant rating. So I'm just going to go back and fix that. Now that I have this in here, I'm also going to do some other formatting. So say I want to make some changes so that if I have a G rating, it's green, and if I have an R rating, it's red. So I'm going to go up here and I'm going to say format, conditional formatting. And you'll notice this is all highlighted, and it gives me a range to apply to. So it's the range that I've already selected. And then it has rules. So it says format if cell is not empty. I don't want that. So I'm going to click on that and I'm going to say text is exactly. So in this case, if text is exactly G, you notice it automatically started to change the color of those text cells. It defaults to this kind of like muted green, but I don't want that. I want something a little brighter. So I'm going to go here and I'm going to select a brighter color green. You'll notice it makes that change immediately. I could click done, but instead I want to still add that other rule for R-rated movies. So I'm going to say add another rule, and I'm going to change that from R or G to R, and then I'm going to come here and select that. Okay, and then I'm going to hit done. So I have the two rules: green for G, R for red. I'm going to go over here and I'm going to do some work here on length. So the B movie, I'm guessing it's around 90 minutes. We'll say Smurfs 2 is 85, Mulan's 129, and Silence of the Lambs is, 115. I'm just guessing on those. We have a column that says, can we watch in class? So basically anything that's, PG is kind of safe. Anything that is R, requires some type of approval from parents. So we're going to create some logic here. So in programming, we've done a little bit with if statements. We can do if statements here too. So if we click on the cell where we want that if statement to be, I can hit equals and then if. And you'll notice this little box pops up and it says if returns value depending on logical expression. It'll give me some hints. I don't need to actually select that. I can just first start by creating a parentheses, and you'll notice it now says logical expression. So in this case, I want to, if it's if it's PG or G, I want to basically say we can watch it. So in this case, I'm going to say G equals to, or sorry, the cell B4 equals to G. Then I wanted to say we can watch. Set the value of true. And then if it's false, I want to say, well, in this case, I'm going to add another if statement. You can nest these if statements together. So I'm going to say if, I'm going to click on the same cell, equals, so PG. So if it equals PG, we can also say we can watch. Otherwise, I'm going to basically say no. You notice I'm putting all these in quotes because these are strings. Let's see. And I'll leave that there for a second. You can see the syntax. And if I entered it all correctly, when I hit enter, we should get a we can watch. We can copy this cell down in many different ways. The way I'm going to do it is I can go down to this lower right, and you'll see my cursor turns into a plus sign. If I double click on the left, it copies that all the way down. You'll notice that everything says we can watch except we get to rated R movie that says no. So that is a if statement that we can create. I'm going to close this conditional rule so that I have a little more space. And I'm going to go for genre, and I'm going to say general audience. I'm just going to do that for short. And in this case, I want that to copy only down one more cell because I think Smurfs is for a general audience. I'm going to get that plus, and I'm going to use a drag down by holding that left mouse button and dragging down. And it just copies that. Then for Mulan, I'm going to say, you know, action. And then for Silence of the Lambs, I'll say horror. So we have a small table with a number of different options. Say we had a table and we're sharing it with somebody who wasn't familiar with what the rating system was, and we wanted to provide a description. And we're like, oh, it would be really nice instead of saying G to say actually what that was, which is, you know, for all audience or general audiences. We didn't create a place for that information yet, so I'm going to add a new column. I'm going to select the C at the top, and then I'm going to right click and select where it says insert left. So I added another column here, and I'll type the title as rating description. I'm going to need to make that a little larger, so I'm going to go and make that a little larger. And instead of having to type that in for each one, I'm going to create what's called a lookup table. So down here a little below, I'm going to do something that says rating, and then I'm going to go here and I'm going to say description. And here we're just going to take G, PG, and R. And if it starts filling out like something like I don't want, like rating, you can hit delete, and it'll just leave you the R. So here I'm just going to say general audience, PG, parental guidance, and here I'm going to say restricted. Okay. I'm going to do some small formats to this so that it looks more like a regular table. And this time, you know what? I would like to just use the same style as what we have over here. So I'm going to go up to, in this case, it's cell A3. I'm going to click on that cell, and then I'm going to go up to my taskbar where it says paint format. And I'm going to click on that icon, and then I'm going to go here and I'm going to click and drag over these two. I'm not sure why the dictionary came up. We'll close that. You'll notice it takes the same format from above and applies it to these cells as well. So now we have a table. I'm going to go over here, and I'm going to add a VLOOKUP. So just like before, to start a new formula, I'm going to hit equals, and then I'm going to hit VLOOKUP with the parentheses. And it also gives me information about what I would choose. So in here, it says search key. So this is the information that I'm going to use to find the right value in the lookup table. So in this case, it's going to be cell B4. So I'm going to hit that, and then I'm going to hit a comma because I want to go into the next thing, which is range. So the range is where these values are going to, the values in the lookup table. So I'm going to go here and I'm going to select this. This is a little tricky here. So right now, these cells, you'll see they have A12, A4 to B14. If I would copy this whole formula farther down, it would automatically update these cells. So that it doesn't, I'm going to add a little $sign before the A, before the 12, before the B, and before the 14. just like that. Now range is which column I want to return. So if you, I'm going to close this down for a second. So this is the first column right here. This is the second column. I want the second column returned, so I'm going to put a 2 there. Then the last one is comma, and we're not going to go into exactly why this is, but for yours, type in false. Basically type in false because you want it to be an exact match, not a close match. And then if you hit enter, you should get return. So G is general audience. And I'm going to do the same thing that we did before of coming down here, and I'll double click to copy that down the entire way. You'll notice it basically takes the information from the table and applies it up here. So if you have a really large data set and you want to look at just a small subset, they provide filter options. And the easiest way to do this is, in this case, I'm going to select row 3. So you see the cursor is over here on row 3. And if I click on that, it highlights the entire row. And if I go up to here with data, one of the options here says create a filter. And if I select that, you'll notice now it kind of highlighted the table. So it automatically kind of senses where the data is. And it added on these little things that they look like 3 lines of decreasing size as it goes down. So in this case, say I wanted to go to rating and I only wanted G-rated movies. I could come down here and I could say clear and then just select G and then come over here and hit OK. You'll notice it basically took all the other data out and now I only see G-rated movies. And you could do this for other ways as well. You could do it on genre. You could even do it by name, or you could do it by length. You can do length of movie that's over, 100 minutes. You could do, movies that are short, less than 100 minutes. It gives you all of those as options. You can also get back to what you had beforehand. And here I'll just select all and I'll hit OK and I get everything back. I can also come up here too and just get rid of the filter altogether. If I come up here, you'll notice it says turn filter off. It basically takes the entire filter off in case you don't use it anymore. But filters are a pretty handy thing to have. Another thing that we use pretty commonly in spreadsheets is math functions like average or max or min. And here you'll notice we have some data that's length. This is numbered data. And in this case, I want to calculate an average. So I'm going to go over here and I'm just going to type average and then I'm going to put a space and an equal sign. I want this to be formatted a little bit differently. I'd like average to come over and be on this side so that it's a little easier to tell what I'm calculating the average of. And then the cell that's right under all of the length values, I'm going to hit equals and guess what I'm going to type. It even provides a suggestion for this. So I'm just going to select average D4 to D7, which is exactly what I want. I'm going to click on that. It provides that exception and just hit enter. So on average, these movies are 104.75 minutes. That might feel a little more precise than what you want, but you can go and you can reformat that to have, I would say, more or less decimal values. If you come over here, you can see a couple common format types. This is currency. Obviously, that doesn't apply here, but it's common. You can have a percentage. Here, you can select more different types. So lots of different options. And here I'm going to go over and I'm going to say decrease decimal places, and I'm going to decrease it twice so that it's rounded to the nearest minute. I think that's probably more appropriate. But say I also wanted to have information that was like minimum. So maybe I'll type in min and maybe also type in max, just so that I can see what the min and max values are in this data set. And then I'm going to come over here and format it kind of in the same way. And here I'm going to type in, I better type in min, that makes sense. And I'm going to highlight all those cells as well and just hit enter. And it gives me the minimum value. And I'm going to do the same thing with max. And I'm going to get the maximum value for these. You can also do some other things that may be helpful. say in case I wanted to do something like a average of just certain values. So first thing I'm going to do is give myself a little more room. So I'm going to highlight these cells, and you notice if I, right at the edge, it has a hand. And if I hit the left mouse button, it allows me to drag those down to give myself more room. And you'll probably want to do that from time to time. I'm going to come back up here and I'm going to say average, but in this case, I'm going to put in parentheses, when I say G movies, I want to go back there. So I can go back and I can do some editing by just clicking on the cell, coming back up to here, because I forgot my equal sign. So I'm going to hit enter again. I'm also going to do a little bit of format painting. So I like the way this is formatted. So I'm going to go up here and I'm going to select that paint format, and I'm going to change the format on the average for G movies. In this case, I'm going to say equals average. You'll notice there's actually an average if right here. So I want to do an average if. So I'm going to select average if. And you'll notice it has also a little section here where it says turn on formula help. Maybe I don't remember how to do the average if formula. So I'm going to click on that. And you'll see it says criteria range, and then criteria, and then average range. So in this case, it also provides an example. So you'll see average if, and it has a range, and it's basically in parentheses, it's saying greater than 20, and then it has, B1 through B10. So in this case, I want to use this as my criteria range because I want to do it ratings, and I remember I want it to be G. So I'm going to select that range, and then I'm going to put a comma, and I'm going to, in quotations, type in G. And I need another comma, and then the average range. This is the data that you want to calculate an average on. So just like before, I'm going to select the minutes, and we're going to close that out and hit enter. And you'll notice here we only have 2 G values, so it's easy to see. It's basically right between 85 and 90. So here we have 87.5, so it's right there. So average if is pretty helpful if you want to do a subsegment of your values to be averaged. Another thing that can be pretty helpful is just doing basic math functions. So we don't have a huge amount of basic math functions that we need to do here. I probably wouldn't use this for basic math functions, but I'm going to just for sake of example. So say I wanted to see what the range was between the minimum and maximum value. So I'm going to type in range, and then I'm going to have an equal sign there. And I'm going to go back and I'm going to format it so it's over here. Then I'm going to say, oh, there's my min and max values. So I'm going to have an equal sign, and then I'm going to select the max value. And I'm going to use a minus sign and then select the min. So maybe, as you might find kind of intuitive, you can see I have an equal sign that says equals and then cell D13 minus cell D12. And if I hit enter, it basically will do that math for me. And it's really handy if you have a lot of math calculations to do, because these cells can be copied and pasted pretty easily. So those are some more features that you can do on Google Sheets. There's a lot that you can find and explore. There are a huge number of features that really save you huge amounts of time. So if you're in a job that uses, if you're an administrator, you're a manager, supervisor, you work in engineering, IT, a lot of people within healthcare, use spreadsheets a lot, oftentimes for hours a day, because they're just such great time savers. So see if you can follow along in the next exercise. You'll be creating your own database. See if you can leverage some of the things you learned here, and also explore maybe some things that we haven't covered. Have a great day. Take care.